purpose was that we have this amazing proxy we've been talking quite a lot about, but we know that, and Federico also pointed, sometimes you have to delegate the intelligence to endpoints. And some of them, you can turn it off.
Captured it.
Turn it's off? Okay. So let's see how they can help and how can we collaborate where it's the state of the endpoints from the point of view of user agent. We have Mira from Zoiper, as well as maybe more important for our the companies that build the platforms, the media servers, and back-to-back user agents in different scenario. So I have a question, and then I'll pass the microphone, and I'll have a few more ready, but be also interactive and prepare your questions. So my question would be, do you think that in the future will be a major change in the way you do the things now? Because let's look at one way would be WebRTC, where a lot of things are moved from your desktop to the web. And then also from the point of view, and it was a discussion yesterday, this artificial intelligence, this thing that these media servers will become the next VoIP bots and so on. So, you can take, everyone has to answer.
I can have a go first.
Yeah, so how do you see the evolution of what you are doing now?
I think the key part of the evolution of Asterisk is, although it started life as a platform that everybody could use, its evolution has taken it into a utility as a media server. And the key thing here is really giving the users total control. And as you saw with Matt's presentation yesterday, having the ARI in there, the Asterisk RESTful interface, then puts developers totally in control. So whether it is the artificial intelligence or whether it is anything else, what that allows is for the developers to come in at an API level that previously only people developing an app dial or an app queue could do. So I think that's, in overview terms, the way I see the evolution happening.
First checking whether it's working. Okay, it's working. Well, for us, we're more headed towards the business. There's business for both WebRTC and desktop applications and mobile applications at the moment. It really depends what the purpose of obtaining an application is. We're more moving towards better integration, provisioning, VoLTE, all the trendy topics.
Zoiper will become the personal assistant. You have to track assets. You are called more to the grocery, and then you envision like artificial intelligence coming to the client side as well. So it becomes like more personal assistant from the real-time communication point of view.
Anything is possible at the moment. We have quite a flexible team, so anything is possible at the moment. We have a WebRTC version as well. It's still in a beta. A new beta is coming up today for the desktop version.
Today?
Today. Are we going to do a dangerous demo? I see you, Achim, nodding.
It's even more dangerous if you don't have it.
I'd probably say it's can be more of the same for the endpoints, because it's constantly you're integrating with new things. If you saw the Matrix presentation, you see all the different variations of endpoints, sources for audio and video and text. So just finding additional ones. And I know Brian and Ken in the FreeSwitch community have actually tried to integrate FreeSwitch with the Amazon Echo. So going with the machine learning and intelligence there's some active work going on in that environment.
Okay. Then, no problem with me? So my question would be, as we know, the toughest part in real-time communication is done by Kamailio, so we have an easy job. But what you consider to be the biggest problem for you as an endpoint, of course, could be like user experience or interaction with too many kind of users, or in the backend. What's the toughest point of your life in terms of the product?
Most recently, I'd probably say changing specifications, specifically Chrome and WebRTC, and sudden changes in APIs and codec implementers who don't consider that their codec may be used in a high-capacity server. Things like VP8 appear to be optimized for an Android or some other tablet. So it's designed so that if you're using video at that point in time, it's supposedly supposed to have the full CPU available. But if you've got a full CPU core for a video, how many cores do you need on a server to host a platform?
I would echo what William says, even though we do have software echo cancellation. I'll go ahead and echo that. Changing specifications, especially around WebRTC, and also the challenge of giving developers exactly what they want in terms of enough information, but not too much information. People who used to deal with the AMI on Asterisk used to complain about having too much information hitting them. And so, again, when Matt spoke yesterday, he talked about the stasis bus and the pub sub abilities there, and so now we've got to a position where developers can choose exactly what information they want to get. So it's that kind of optimization.
Our case is similar. I would just like to add that we also have to support all the devices, which is quite a work there. So there's a lot of tweaking and a lot of secrets going on there. Battery consumption, Joachim gave a presentation about that. Very difficult. Call quality, extremely difficult on certain devices. As we know, there are thousands of devices there. I think that would be difficulty on our side. Changing specifications for us is more like on the client, on the customer side, when they come with requests to us.
They don't want blue color, they want red, yeah. Changing.
Not only about colors, but
yeah, no, I know. So let's see if there are questions in the audience about media servers and endpoints.
One right at the back.
It's one back. Marcus, and then we have one front about IPv6.
Hello. If we're talking about endpoints, one big problem I see or I often have in building PBXs like that really businesses use is metadata, like connected line caller IDs, updating them, having history or diversion infos shown to the user. What's your stand on that? Because I don't know any soft phones that get this right or that do this at all. And in hard phones, I know the code in FreeSwitch which says if this is a Polycom phone in version X, do this. If it's a SNOM phone in version Y, do that. And is there something happening, or can I expect that this stuff will work somehow? Because like when in a call center context, you might want to see, okay, who is calling and which queue did he or she call or something like that. That's just important stuff, but yeah, it's not implemented in any endpoints I know of.
I'm taking it as a question towards the soft phone part here.
Yeah, it's the question whether this is just my problem that I might not be able to expect this kind of features from soft phones, or is it just not considered in these things, or should I build my own interface in WebRTC which does all like fancy integrations and fancy update of information that is displayed to me?
So to rephrase it from what I understood, as I'm not in the endpoint, would be, are there standard way or better ways to, or are you working on a way to export more metadata about the calls, like, at the end of the call, getting a report that it's easy to fetch via an API? That would be. So getting reports about the calls and what happened during the call via some APIs, based on the phone or based on standards?
Based on standards.
Okay, then we need to return here for the ITF, I guess. But what's your take with this? Not probably Mira is.
I'm not
is
very
more
technical here, obviously. But
it's more about Asterix FreeSwitch with call queuing, I guess.
Yeah, we're working on some fancy integrations for sure. That's happening in the office. But I'm not sure how much I can reveal about it. Maybe there's somebody else here who wants to comment on that.
I'm the more technical guy, I think, at least
Obviously.
today. So there are some things coming in Zuiper that will let you do some sort of reporting after the call or during the call, so that you can follow the statuses with some web API, for example, and you can monitor if the call was answered, by who, how many packets were sent, what was the average quality, things like that. The other question, I think, was if you could see the number that was being dialed or redirected. There are some things there, but we're a bit stuck with what is available to us in the SIP header. So we could theoretically expose everything, but on the other side, if it's for a call center application, it's for a desktop application, it's quite okay. We could do all kinds of things. On the mobile, it gets a little bit difficult because we have to show like an image for the person that's being dialed, the name, the telephone number. Maybe there's multiple matches for the names. If we also have to add things like what queue came it in for, or what telephone number was actually dialed, and what other things are available, it probably will not fit on the tiny screens anymore. But for desktop, it's something that could be added probably. You could come see me afterwards in the breaker, so discuss it more.
See Zara afterwards. I think from our perspective, the kind of mechanisms to allow that data to get towards the endpoint from Asterisk are in place. And it's really a case of how much work individuals want to do. Obviously, as a project, we have to work on a kind of an 80-20 rule of either where the head of requirements are or where the commercial imperative is. But those sort of things are available. It's the degree of work. There's two Matts in the audience, and I don't know whether either Matt would like to comment on that. And if they would.
Sure. I'd say a fair amount of the information I think you described is already available and already happens. So, I mean, connected line has been around for a long time, diversion, redirecting, all that other fun stuff. I think where it gets interesting is particularly when you start looking at the call center scenarios, that if you start getting into sort of that application-specific metadata that you want to get, that's where things get very custom. And I'm not sure that a standard or a particular standardized way of doing it is even necessarily the right approach at that point, simply because it gets so application-specific. But if you're going to that level, then you may actually be going down the path that you described, where you really just need to write your own particular thing.
Yeah, a piece of input on it. I'll answer a part of it. So in reference to the caller ID or the displayed identities and things like that, I think it's been a matter of the standards are clear, but there's a wide variety of interpretations for some of the pieces. And I almost wish more of the RC standards gave human-readable, real-world examples of how each field could and should be used. Because one of the examples from the FreeSwitch side is the PAI header, the asserted identity, and how many devices do or don't support it, how many carriers abuse other fields instead of using the proper headers. So and there are a lot of endpoints that we've found that don't read from the expected field, they read from an alternate field, which 90% of the time has the same data, except the 10% of the time when you actually need it to be different. So it's an interesting world, and it's a matter of finding the edge cases and then hoping everybody comes to a more consensus on what the fields mean.
Oh dear, an anonymous Bulgarian man asks a question. There are people in the society who wants to set up calls without audio. They send real-time text in the call, and they send, in many cases, high-definition video. We made that work in Asterisk many years ago, and something got broke. But what's the status with FreeSwitch and Zuiper in regards of support of people who have loss of hearing completely or partially?
FreeSwitch has recently, in the last couple of years, added a lot of video support. I don't believe that we can do just a video stream without an audio stream, but I know that there are several use cases in our community where effectively they make the audio-video call and just mute the audio. But I know it's a common supported one, and there's been a lot of work on FreeSwitch done by Anthony Masali in Mod Conference to be able to support some interesting use cases, especially when it comes to enabling those with either hearing disabilities or something to be able to communicate. So.
Thank you for the question. Last year, we dedicated and allocated resources towards this specific topic for the hearing challenged. We even developed a separate application developed by some of the Zoiper members that is used to calculate the range of certain hearing loss. Also, Zoiper is optimized for accessibility. There are a lot of accessibility features coming, and we're going to continue working towards this specific hearing challenged group of support for accessibility specifically.
You can probably answer that better than me, Ule.
Well, it's broken again. But as I get it, you guys don't have T140 in real-time text. You have some support for it in the old SIP stack.
I would need to defer to Matt on that one again. T140.
So I don't think we added real-time text. I mean, most of the real-time text stuff is actually not in the channel driver. There's some negotiation parts that are clearly in the channel driver, but most of the actual frame interpretation RTP stuff is all in the RTP engine, which is common between any of the channel driver implementations. As far as I'm concerned, you know, is that in the PJ SIP stack? I don't think we will negotiate it, but it wouldn't be a very large patch to go add that if somebody was interested in it. Being open source, that's always an option.
And an easy job.
The other aspect of it is that, you know, if something actually does get broke, then clearly it'd be nice to have a patch that would fix that, and preferably a test that goes along in the Asterisk test suite to prevent it from getting broken again.
Volunteers.
More questions for the moment? We have Tim. Can you go to Tim?
So coming back to endpoints, how are you seeing, and kind of related to that, how are you seeing non-traditional endpoints? Are you seeing kind of, I mean, I'm interested in pet cameras, but you know, other non-traditional endpoints like doorbells and that kind of stuff. Are you starting to see that coming into your stuff, and what do you have to do in your environments to support those things that aren't phones but are making calls?
We've seen some very interesting ones. One was a use case where somebody wanted to hook up all of their security cameras for their house through FreeSwitch and then be able to call in from their remote soft phone and then be able to pick which security camera. So that was a very interesting one for us to see. And then they also wanted the 4x4 array to be able to see all the cameras on one video stream and then be able to click a button and go select that one camera. So there are a lot of unexpected use cases that suddenly pop up that are like, huh, that's interesting. Never thought about it, but it's cool that it works.
Yeah, I think we don't have too much to do there, because most people that want to do something strange mimic a SIP phone anyway. A classic example is a door entry system, isn't it? It looks like a door entry system. It's vandal-proof and weatherproof, but it still works just like a SIP phone. We do have occasionally people coming up with interesting ideas about splitting audio and video. So, for instance, they could get the audio on something that looked a bit like a phone while seeing the video on their computer screen, that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of suggestions that come up.
They usually come to us for the development.
Other questions for the endpoints? How you see this shift to messaging, and where you're gonna position yourself as, you know, being a relevant part of the real-time communication and being a major one in the past when voice was like ruling, and now a lot of change to mobile. I know that all of you support messaging in a way or another, but do you think this will have an impact and will need to change the behavior or how you develop in the future, like maybe even doing translation between this messaging to audio video for some cases? Or what would be the impact of this shift to messaging more than just audio video? for your endpoint?
Shall I start? Well, in our case, we have increasing requests from voice over IoT providers, so we're moving towards that. We have an active and currently running implementation with the soft phone during this transition period. I'm not sure I can name the client. Yeah, I can. It's a South African very big provider called Smile.
Okay.
So we're working with them.
Those that write a lot of code for the Kamailio modules. Okay.
They do, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think people are able to do integrations at the moment with Jabber XMPP, OpenFire, that kind of thing. And I think it's just our job to consider, or not considered, but to facilitate that in an ongoing way via one interface or another. I think at the end of the day, the death of voice is still grossly exaggerated. And even when people are instant messaging, like if they're doing something on Facebook Messenger, if something really exciting happens, they'll press the call button and want to talk about it. So I don't think it's an exclusive thing.
I'd probably say the biggest thing that I've seen are being an endpoint side of things where we're integrating with a bunch of different applications. Seeing the strange occurrences when you have two different types of messaging cross. Being able to watch somebody integrate SMS over either SMPP or another interface to a provider, and then want to hook that into Jabber or IRC or Matrix, who's probably integrated that into 20 other things. And then just finding that providers have limitations on SMS per second, and odd things happen when you send very, very large SMS messages.
Okay, so maybe a bit rephrasing because I was leaning towards, do you think that messaging will make disappear like voicemail and IVRs anytime soon? Because to be honest, from my point of view, coming from a country where voicemail was not something popular, I don't really like that service. Although I feel it's useful, but somehow I would rather prefer a text or eventually the endpoint, like media server, will translate the video to or audio to some transcript.
I'd probably say the biggest change I've seen for voicemail in regards to text was a lot more applications showing you the waveform of the audio. So if somebody left you a 10-minute voicemail, you can skip through it and select the parts you want to listen to. But if people remember, Google had a voicemail translation service that was worthy of a lot of laughs for how it translated pieces of it. So I don't think the speech-to-text detection is all the way there for large populations.
Was that the one that was not as automated as everybody thought it was? Or something. I think these things vary in different regions, and as voicemail goes down in one place, it goes up in another. Over in the Philippines, there's an asterisk case doing 56 million calls every week just on voicemail. And so when you're serving a global community, that peak and trough in different requirements kind of evens out a bit.
I haven't said it's going down. It's just, for me, it would be better than if it's another alternative for it. So that was to see if you see the future changing somehow or not.
It really depends on the business case, I'm guessing. In our case, we have several million end users, and we have thousands of different businesses using Zoiper. It really depends on the business. Voicemail is a required feature still. Messaging as well. It's a 100% required feature. And SMS as well, in terms of messaging. Video voicemail as well is something interesting, especially for accessibility.
Okay. So, new questions from the audience, if you have now. It's one of the last chance because we don't have much time. If not, I'm then going to give you what you would like to happen and in the near future to make your life easier. Okay, it's a bit overlapping. What was your biggest difficulty? So don't approach that. But from terms of services, what would be like challenging for you and would like to work on in the future?
better, more stable open standards and people more aware of the standards that are coming down the pipeline, specifically in the area of WebRTC and some of the video codecs. I think the organizations that are figuring out how to design that are trying to invent what the new way of doing things should look like. And it'd be great if people could participate and say that their use case should be considered in the newer generations.
Yeah, maybe a standard way of implementing standards.
Yes.
Would be a good way to go. I think it's very similar. Our lives are made difficult when people do this. Also, wouldn't it be nice if somebody could wave a magic wand and sort out the IPR around various codecs and make life easier for everybody as well?
Okay, so the patents, right? Get rid of them would make the life a bit easier.
Integrability, operability, and accessibility in our case. We're working towards that. That's important. And encryption too is important.
Okay, so I think we are just in time for it. If you want to add a last remark about what are your plans for this year, maybe other events that we should not miss. So everyone was shot out, left to right or right to left.
I guess, as Matt said earlier, contributions to the Asterisk project are always very, very welcome. Good code, good test routines, all of that kind of stuff. And coming to Astricon, of course. Astricon is our get-together over in the US. We'll be in Glendale, Arizona, 27th to 29th of September this year. And we're looking forward to it, and we'd like to welcome you along as well. Oh, and by the way, we'll be at ClueCon too.
You want to go? Or you want to? Okay.
We're working, actually today we're releasing a new beta of the desktop client. If you want to obtain it, just drop an email to mira@zoiper.com. We are going to release a new Android version, completely rewritten interface. The current one, we appreciate your feedback. We know it's ugly. The same for the new iPhone version. It's going to come very soon. We're going to release a new one. There were some interesting feature requests from the audience. We're going to implement them.
For more of the FreeSwitch news, I'd probably say everyone plan to go to Chicago in August for ClueCon. For more information, go to cluecon.com. There's a lot of great information, and it's a full and busy and diverse conference of technical folks.
So many thanks, and without you, our life as a C proxy would be harder because we had to implement what you do. So thank you, and you are all do a really great job, and we appreciate your efforts to make our life easier as well. Not from the person of technical, but also from like user of your application. Thank you.